Hello, and thank you for joining me today. We're going to jump right in here. I'm going to be doing several of these paintings, so if I don't talk about part of the process in this video, I'll catch you in the next one. I'm going to be showing you the same creative process that I've been using for multiple paintings now that I'm really enjoying. So what you were seeing in the first part there is I had drawn on this gesso board with watercolor pencils. Those are pencils that you just draw directly on, and then you use a brush, as I was doing at the beginning, to activate that color. You can move the color around, you can mix the color together, it makes the color brighter, or you can take some of it away. It's a really great tool for sketching on your painting surface before you actually get around to painting it. So what I am now doing here is I mixed a neutral background color. So I wanted to take away the white of the painting. I like to take away the white from the background as quick as possible, because the thing about color is that your eye is judging it based on its surroundings. So I mixed this really neutral background color with green and purple. Believe it or not, mixing those two together will give you a gray. In this case, it was a magenta, and I want to say that was a viridian green. So I painted all of the background that color. We are now coming back in with yellows and oranges. I'm going to get some reds in here. I'm going back through and redefining the shape that I'm creating. As of right now, this point in the painting, I'm not even sure what I'm going for. This is just the creative process to have a conversation with what I'm doing. You can't react to anything that's just blank. You can think about it in your mind over and over for a long time, but if you never put anything down on the canvas, your eye has nothing to react to. So this is just a little journey that we are taking together, and this is my ultimate goal with some of these paintings, is to show you the creative process. There are a lot of people that you can watch that will show you step by step how to create, this specific flower or bird or animal, and those are all really great. But what I'm really hoping to share with you guys in these upcoming videos is the actual creative process of how I'm thinking about and creating a painting. So as you can see, I've just been laying colors down. You can see the board moving around on my easel. I'm not used to painting on mini canvases like this, but I wanted to give it a try. I will fix it a little bit later in the video. Here's the hint. It's tape. I just ended up taping the back of it to the easel. You want to keep your painting surface steady. And we're just doing more layers. This is a magenta that I'm coming in with. So what I like to do on my palette is to set out whatever colors I'm feeling. So for this one, I have a set of main primary colors that I can use and mix in any painting. Part of that just comes from playing around. Part of that does come from an actual color theory course I had the chance to take. If you have the chance to take a color theory course, if you're curious about mixing color, I highly recommend it. It will open up so many new venues for you of what you can explore and do with your paint. It is a lot of fun. And here we go, going into the background. So I've put a couple of layers on that middle shape that just started out with a pattern I will talk about more in upcoming videos. But for now, like I said, this was just me starting the conversation with the piece. I'm still not sure what I want from it, but what's going through my head as we're adding color and I'm brushing it out, I'm using very thin color. I'm always using a clean brush as I go into a new color so that my colors don't muddy together. There's a time and place to let your colors blend. In this particular case, I want to very specifically blend them. I don't want to accidentally blend them with paint left in my paintbrush. I'm coming back in with the white. This is where I've been looking at the canvas and realized, oh, I need this shape to get bigger. It's too small for what I want. It didn't feel organic. It felt very awkward in the center of the canvas. So white is always a great neutral to come back in with, which is again why I like to delete kind of the white of the painting as quick as possible, because I personally really enjoy painting and creating shapes and forms with white by painting them over color already established. And part of that is because I like really soft colors and I like very delicate details. Oh, you can see that the original shape of this painting is almost completely covered up. It is getting cloudy. I'm muddying over those lines. I'm pulling them out. And the cool thing that you could see with that white was that even though I pulled those lines out to the edge of the canvas, as long as the paint was still wet and you can use some water, you can blend them all back out. And this is me still just playing. Every time I'm taking my paintbrush to the canvas, I'm swirling it around in a different way. I'm trying a different texture, a different shape, and mostly what I'm doing is trying to cover up any strokes that I decide I don't like. And then when that layer is done, I'm coming back in with another layer and redefining and pulling back anything that I think is pleasing to the eye. I'm still letting myself really relax into this. I'm not trying to paint anything yet. And I think what's really fun is you're going to see how different the end result is and what we're actually painting by going through this whole process. So here I'm coming back in with kind of an orange yellow. That's a cadmium yellow mixed with a little bit of cadmium red dark. I'm really particular to the dark cadmium red more than the medium. The medium has a little bit too much orange in it for me. I like more of a scarlet tone. And here we're coming in with the magenta. And I believe this is magenta mixed with just a tiny bit of blue to give it a little more purple than magenta feel. These are two very saturated colors, so they're really popping off the page where everything else behind it has been very desaturated, and you can see that I've still got those white lines defining and pushing the eye in a bunch of different directions, and that's a lot of what I'm playing with. Is with every stroke I'm examining the painting, taking a breath, looking at it, going, okay, what do I like? What do I not like? Do I not like what I just did? Do I need to cover that up? Does that change the entire scope? Because you can change how your entire composition feels just with one stroke and adding one color to your painting. And so what I'm doing here is I'm pulling back in that neutral background color that I added a while back. The purpose of that is that is a very desaturated color as well. It shows up against the white because most things show up against white, but what that's doing is helping give the eye a contrast to the intensity of the purple. I would say is probably the most intense, and then you've got that kind of golden yellow. That's my other intense color. I want to keep those being my two intense colors that the viewer is reacting to, and that means everything else from there I want to blend out, to soften, to kind of desaturate the intensity of the color so that I can specifically push and pull the viewer's eye where I want it to go to create either a beautiful composition or just an interesting one, maybe something kind of odd. For this particular piece, we're going to be going for a very soft, beautiful, flowing feel. So feel free to let me know down in the comments what you think of the process and whether or not you think that it was successful at the very end. We are coming closer and closer to what this finished product is going to look like. So again, I'm just softening those edges. I'm painting with that white, which I really do love because you can paint a color on and then soften it or just gently push it towards the back with that. But we are going to be coming back into the center and creating some very organic shapes that I think you will start to recognize as looking like something. And the brushes that I'm using for this painting primarily are all circle brushes. Whether you use a circle or a flat brush is really just up to you and it's personal preference. So if you are still figuring out what you like, I highly recommend trying a bunch of different brushes and just playing around with them. See what they do best, see what maybe they don't do so well. Round brushes are normally my favorite, but I have very recently been playing around with some more flat brushes, and I felt very betrayed when I enjoyed using them more on a particular painting than my round brush. You start to develop things that you like, and sometimes it can be a little jarring when you're like, wait, I thought I didn't really like flat brushes. I guess maybe I should revisit that. So always play around and be willing to make mistakes, which is part of this process that I have been loving. And it's just a fun, very freeing way to create a composition. And what I'm doing now is, again, using those 3 colors that I already talked about, the yellow, the purple, and that kind of gray-blue background color. It looks very aqua compared to, I think, kind of these other colors right now. And I am either lightening or darkening them. And this is where I'm using value to create more depth and pop to the painting. So the darks are where I'm adding in, shadows, a little more form. I'm trying to use a very mid-grade, mid-tone color to create the bulk of the shape. And then I want to bring in highlights, either with light colors, light version of that color, or again, just with straight white going right in there. I don't know if you can tell now where we're going. They're starting to look more and more like the end product. We are very close to adding the finishing touches on this. I hope you can see that we're starting to create a very organic floral type form, which is vastly different from where we started. And that's what's really fun about this process for me. And I hope that you enjoy it too. Please feel free to ask any questions that you may have about it down in the comments. I would love to address those for you. That's kind of part of my whole goal with this, is I want to inspire other people to create and show you that you can do it. And it doesn't have to be a picture perfect process where you sit down and you go, okay, I'm going to paint these flowers, and I magically know where they go on the canvas. So if you're someone who, like me, sometimes doesn't like to put all of that forethought into fully planning something before you sit down at the canvas, this is just a really great, very flowing technique to start that conversation and find a composition that really works for you and makes you happy. There we go. Adding a little more definition. You can see I pulled in the green, made some leaves, going back in for those highlights and darkening it a little bit up. This is where you want to work kind of all over your canvas all at once, because you can tell how these colors change the moment you put something next to them. Everything looks different within the context of the painting, so you can never tell if you have the right color just on your palette. You got to be brave and put it up there, but you can always paint over it if you don't like it, so don't get nervous. Art should be fun. I'm so happy you joined me today. I hope you will join me again for the next painting. It's hopefully going to look very different from this, and we're just going to keep exploring this process. Stay creative. All right. Bye.